most of the brokers that I talk to, they'll just raise the equity out, put it the whole loan on P&I, and people feel the burn, right? Because, they're using all of their equity and paying it down, their repayments go up, and they're like, I thought investments was easy, but it's not really that easy because, we are burning cash flow. You're listening to Help Me Buy Property podcast powered by Investor Partner Group. We help improve lifestyles by building scalable and sustainable generational wealth and passive income streams. We do this via our ecosystem that is a one-stop shop to all property investment needs, from evidence-based, data-driven buyer's agency, industry-renowned portfolio reviews and property strategies, property development with and for clients, tax, SMSF, business structures advisory, and cash flow real estate. Everything we do is to help people achieve financial independence and not just basic financial freedom by using property as a tool and as a medium. Presently, we've launched Australian Property Academy, where we are training and teaching buyers agents, property advisors, property strategic partners, and secrets to finding investor-grade properties to astute investors. Connect now to experience it yourself, or drop in a line below at info@helpmebuy.com.au to get more information. Be kind and happy investing. Hello and welcome to Help Me Buy Property podcast, another episode. And this is a 3-part series. We are talking to Mr. Hong Chuy from Strategic Brokers. Let's welcome him in. Hong, how are you today?
Yeah, good. Just got off a plane, landed straight into your beautiful office in this studio. How wonderful is this?
It's amazing. Thank you for coming down all the way from Sydney. I think this is amazing. So this is a 3-part series. The first part is we'll start off with the mortgage strategy. Astute investors, astute property investors, and mortgage strategy. Right up your alley. Talk to me a bit about that.
Yeah, so maybe I'll do a quick intro of myself. So you're familiar with who I am. I guess I've been in the finance game for close to 15 years now. 37 years of age as of last week.
Amazing.
So, it's spent a lot of my adult life, I guess, helping people find money. I think where, the journey allowed me to keep, looking for solutions for clients was that I was looking for solutions for myself.
Of course.
Starting from very humble beginnings, it's kind of like yourself, Mox, knowing a bit about your background also. We didn't have much to start with, so we had to figure out ways to get, more money. And the only way to get more money or more wealth was more leverage.
Definitely.
Right. So the key to, building yourself a portfolio that's going to generate you, passive income in the long run.
Yeah.
Have a wealth pool, the core.
And there's nothing wrong with that, right? There's so much stigma behind people making money or people chasing wealth. What's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that, right?
Oh, 100%. I think you have to have your mindset shift from, thinking that it's a bad thing to become wealthy. I remember growing up myself.
Yeah.
I had family members saying, if you get wealthy or you get rich, make sure you don't become one of those people.
100%.
So I always just remember them always saying that to me.
Yeah.
And it almost limits you from wanting to become wealthy because there's a stigma that your family said that wealthy people are bad people.
Yeah.
That's not the truth.
Yes.
The wealthy people are just amplified version of themselves.
100%. And I think you enjoy more if you come from humble beginnings because you are not, privileged, kid, walking on the block, was just wealthy, right? There's a lot of blood and sweat that has gone in creating this thing around.
Oh yeah, 100%. And every time you hit a goalpost, it's just that much more rewarding. It's just like, now what? And then the goalpost keeps moving.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Where I'm at today, if you'd asked me when my 21-year-old version of myself, if I'd be here today,
yeah,
I'd be over the moon to be where I am today. So, but now the goalposts keep moving.
Yeah. And I think one thing that I always keep telling on everywhere that I go is, if I had my own version of me telling me what to do, like what I've learned right now, but I was 21, that would be amazing, right?
Oh, absolutely.
The stuff that right now, and you could imply that 20 years ago.
Provided that your 21-year-old self would listen to you as a 37 or 30.
Yeah, true.
You're probably too stubborn to listen to yourself.
Yeah, back then. True. But you did listen to yourself, right? You got to the end because you were listening to yourself. So, you need to give that credit back to yourself.
Yeah, 100%. So I guess talk about finance.
Astute investors.
Yeah, all the astute investors.
How do you define astute investor? Who is, everyone talks about, an astute investor, seasoned investor. Well, how do you define it?
I think the first thing is that they're educated. That's probably the first thing I see. Especially for the student investors, they listen to a lot of podcasts. They engage a lot of professionals, or what we tend to call the A team. They're trying to figure out their A team along the way. And as they build that A team, they're people who actually they're out there. They're listening to people like us, right? Chatting, right? And they're constantly learning, which is what I find, and they have an end goal kind of in mind. They're not sure what that looks like. Usually it starts with people thinking about how they can replace their income, not work so much. But if you love what you do, you continue working, so trying to figure out how to get there. And they're really, I find those type of people they're the ones that they're out there, they're constantly searching,
Yes. The hustling.
Yeah, they're constantly trying to hustle, and they know property is a vehicle for them. So so that probably defines a student investor. But you could be anyone. You could be somebody who's obviously been gifted or had a portfolio, but want to extend that or grow that, So people understand that ability to re-leverage it or keep expanding using the right structures, so forth. Yeah.
Definitely. And how does the mortgage strategy comes into play? Everyone talks about going to the broker and talking to them. I think one thing that differentiates student investor versus a first-time investor or someone entering into the game is basically they know what's next. It's not so much about now. They know about, okay, what's going to come in next. And how does the mortgage broker plays that part?
Really important, actually, because in each of our interviews, or we've got 12 brokers in our business now, but, always, every time we have the conversation, our first part of our conversation is never about what are you looking for.
Yeah.
It's all about what are you trying to achieve.
Yeah.
So that's probably the first question. Yeah. And everybody has a different vision of what they need. Some guys are just like, look, I just want to have a family home, couple of investments, perfect. And then there's other guys who say, I want to take over the world. 400 properties, whatever it is, right?
That asset.
Yeah, and then we go, okay, well, let's, we got to start with earning some business income. But with, I guess, a goal, we can't even call it the end, because like I say, the goalposts keep moving, right? But with at least some sort of vision in mind of something that you want to achieve. So, for example, I've got a client who I met only recently. He's become good friends of mine actually now, and he's allowed me to kind of mentor him through this process. So he's trusting me.
Amazing.
How are we going to build this out?
Yeah.
All he knows is he wants to make enough money to have financial freedom at a young age. And he's earning a really good salary at like 26.
Wow.
Right. He's in the over 200 grand.
Amazing.
At 26, which he's super intelligent. He knows what he's doing, but he hasn't got any assets. He's got 100 and something grand. Perfect. He's in pole position now to be able to then transform that. Yeah. And we know that we need to build an asset base of maybe, call it between $7 and $10 million, and we need to ride one cycle, buy well with the asset base. We'll buy good properties first of all. Yeah. Allow that to call it even one double. We can maintain that portfolio.
100%.
For one double up, we're looking at 7 million. Then if you put 5% on that, or if you convert it to yielding assets, then we're looking like we're in a good position after that. So when I drew it out to him, and he's like, "This makes so much sense." He's like, in my mind, all I ever thought about was what, because he works in tech, was that I buy stocks, maybe I'll get lucky. Yeah. You don't want to get lucky.
Gambling.
Yeah, it's just gambling, right? And they go, but what about stocks? You get 30% return on your money.
How many times?
Yeah, 30% on 100 grand is 30 grand. You put 100 grand into $1 million property, get 30% of that. That's 300. Yeah. But people don't think about that analogy. Yeah.
No, it's very interesting. I think a lot of people, when they start off in the property space, they don't think about the mortgage strategy. They never think about, what's coming in next. I think one thing that people discount quite a lot, is the compounding nature of the property. It's a game of holding, right? The person who holds the biggest amount of assets basically wins. And then also, when you think about property, you keep talking about the Gold Coast moving. I always think about, well, I need to pass on the baton. It's a relay race, right? And the generational wealth is the baton. And I just need to make sure that I pass on the baton with the perfect frequency and the perfect, image, so that, the next person who takes it to the next level, right? So it's basically that sort of mentality. And that's where a lot of people fail, where they are always chasing rates versus rewards. And let's talk a bit about that. How does that basically feels into this? I see a lot of people coming in and saying, oh, I need a cheaper rate, or, this broker is giving me 0.5%, discount, and all of that sort of conversation. And how does that fit into the student investor mentality? Don't get yourself taken on a ride by property spookers, so-called property investment advisors, or buyer's agents who are selling house and land packages or off-the-plan properties or apartments. Get yourself a copy of this book called The Millennial's Guide to Property Investing. This book is not just for millennials. The title suggests, but it's actually the most advanced way of investing in property. This book will relate to your clients, your colleagues, and other business owners. There are so many property spookers out there who have come out of the woodwork over the last 3 to 5 years. And there is so much misinformation out there that I had to write a book about all the F-ups that people can actually avoid in order to be super successful in the property investment journey. Some of these are really easy to identify, but they are so costly to fix once these mistakes are made. So it's a short book, it's easy to read, it has a lot of stories, it has a lot of examples, and it is a true guide for people who wants to do it themselves. My name is Moxin Reza. This is my story, and a lot of you will relate to parts of this story if you're not born in the riches and if you're trying to build a property portfolio that can last generations and help you improve your lifestyle along the way. So I give you a chance to come out there and have a read. Be kind, stay safe, keep smiling, keep investing, and please do check out the book.
Yeah, so like I think even for myself personally, there was after when you start buying properties, you don't really have a goal in mind when you don't have people like ourselves helping with the process.
Yeah.
When I first started, I had no idea what I was doing, right? So I was just buying this, buying that. Okay, it might work. I was buying off the plan properties my first couple, right?
Everyone.
And I finally got killed on off the plan that settled with 150 grand shortfall, and it just destroyed me when that was going back when I was 19, 20. Yeah, those very, very early days, right? And you live and you learn. But fortunately, for the people listening, they actually don't have to make the mistakes that we made, right? Because we made the mistakes for you.
Yes.
When you see us.
It's true.
But yeah, after a while, and as my portfolio got bigger, one thing that actually, I share this quite often, is a really important lesson, is that once you start breaking, like take your own occupier out of it. If you bought an own occupier, you rent vest, it doesn't matter, whichever way it was, take that out of the picture. And then look at your investment portfolio as a business. All right, people don't think of it this way, right? So when you start a business, what's the first thing? You got to inject capital, right?
Yeah.
And then when you inject capital, you got to spend money.
Yeah.
Because then you got to pay for staff, this, that, whatever it is, right? And same with property, right? You got to inject money, put a deposit in, buy a property, and then like at the beginning, cash flow is going to be burning.
Yeah.
So you got to figure out how to kind of plug that gap until maybe the rents go up.
Yeah.
Maybe rates go down. I don't know. Whichever way, there's a combination of things that can happen in that cycle. Maybe you've built a whole bunch of properties and all of a sudden you've sold one, freed up some cash, offset some money, brought all of the repayments down. So there's a lot of different ways, but the biggest turning point is when people actually get that, put it on Excel, even do whichever way they do it, and actually look at it as a business profit and loss statement, basically, and really use that for the advantage to figure out, how now. What can I afford to lose, right?
Yeah.
So that rate versus reward play. So some people are chasing rates, but they're going to banks that can't give them any more finance. Now they're stuck when they could have acquired another $1 million worth of assets, which they might have missed out on another 40% growth in the time they were waiting to buy another property through their major bank or whoever it was, right? So,
yeah. And it's an interesting dilemma, right? I think, people trying to aim for cash flow versus growth, right? So I always see this people making mistakes, especially thinking about a point in time. That's how I see about this, that, when the rates are high and people are like, oh, I need to chase higher yields, where rates are low, people start chasing growth because the yields are easier to manage. It's all about sustainability, right? It's all about, okay, how do you look at your overall property portfolio and think about that. Now, 0.5% rate is not going to break the bank if you are doing it the right way, get it interest only, put it on the right rates, go out there, take some risk, right? You have to have the risk appetite in order to build a $5 or $7 million property portfolio.
Yeah. Well, if you are taking risks, obviously calculated risks, right?
Yes,
so you're looking at your numbers, making sure they make sense, and they make sense, with your forecasting.
Yeah.
Banks are buffering at 3%, but you've got to make your logical buffer.
Yeah.
You've also got to think about your own buffers.
Yeah.
So, like whether you have 100 grand in the offset, or you drew a line of credit basically that sits there in case of emergencies.
Yes.
I've seen this. One of my clients waterproofing showers. They didn't waterproof it properly. Now the whole bottom of the house is rotting.
Yeah.
They got to spend 30 grand. Now,
Yeah.
okay, well, now I've got that as a backup, not to scare people, but just to say that, hey, these things happen.
Definitely.
You got to have the buffers in place.
I think buffers are very important. And I think they're not talked about enough. When you talk to people and you ask them, how much is enough for your buffer, people usually play dumb. Like, what do you mean? Like, you have to have a buffer in place for something that goes wrong in your personal life, in your personal business. You always have buffers in the business, so why not in the personal life, right?
100%. Yeah, and I've been lending money for a long time now, and that I could tell you, like, probably 1 in 5 of my conversations is about shifting mindset rather than, the product or the loan. So clients come to me, they're like, oh, I can afford 700 a week, or whatever it is, and then I'm like, what about your buffer? And they're like, oh no, we just live week to week.
Yeah.
We take a mortgage, but we'll put a 500 grand deposit in.
Yeah.
But we'll leave nothing. Yeah. It's mad. I have to retrain the mindset, learn about offsets, everything else. I'm like, it's crazy. Yeah. So I've seen this so many times, and I'm just really shocked that, is this the way we're being brought up? Is this the way we're trained?
I think, it's very funny as to how the bank looks at things versus how people look at things. I was talking to a client literally last week. And so they have a property which they own probably about I think 550, 600,000 on it outstanding. That property is worth about $1.3, $1.4 million. So a lot of equity, right? Between the two of them, they're easily bringing about 250 home, really like 270 home. So good income, right? No kids, only cats and dogs. And so they went to a bank, directly to the bank, shared the numbers. And the bank is like, no problem. We can get you a loan of up to 800, 900, walk in the park, came through the referral and came in and did the strategy. And they went in through the property plans, filled everything in. And I was doing the strategy and I was shocked. I look at the numbers, I look at the budgets, and she's quoted $500 in saving. I thought she missed the zero by mistake. I was like, must be 5,000, can't be 500, right? Anyways, they come into the meeting and I'm going through the process and she's like, no, we actually save 500. I was like, how the hell? Between the two of you, you're bringing in $13,000 in income every month. Your mortgage is less than $3,000, $4,000. Where's the money going? And they're like, oh, don't worry about that. Bank told us to, we can get this money. And I was like, stuff the bank. Your finances are not in order. Yes, you can get a loan, but, where is your own financial acumen? You need to save in the first sort of 2 to 3 years worth of investing. You need to go aggressive. You need to go hard. And if your risk appetite is going up, you need to have the financials in check.
Yeah, 100%.
So it's always interesting as to how people look at things versus how banks might be looking at things. A broker can get you the loan, but if you don't have the right mortgage strategy in place, if you don't have the right mindset, then everything can go to bonkers, right?
Oh, 100%. And, you've, in the early days of, I guess, investing, as we always, if it's your first, second property or whatever it is, especially with today's interest rates sitting between 6-7%, right? It's really hard to find properties that are positively geared from day one. So it makes it quite difficult for people to just jump in. Yeah. Oh, look, I'm willing to lose $10,000 a year or $20,000 a year for the hope they might go on. But, obviously, if you buy right, using the right buyer's agent or you're very, well educated in property and know what you're after. Yeah. Even then, I personally always use a buyer's agent. So I'm probably 2-time poor. Yes. Areas that I'm looking at are interstate most of the time. When I come back to city, I'll do it myself. So,
100%.
Yeah, very, very important.
If I take a step back, when we are talking about rewards versus rates and mortgage strategy combined, what do you think about people taking short-term risks? I see a lot of people saying, okay, I'm going to get this loan at 8% or 9% right now, but then I'll refinance it 6 months down the track. What do you think about that sort of strategy?
Yeah, so like a normal PAYG person, they're pretty fixed and fast, right? Yeah. This is my salary, maybe bonus. So, we can build strategies around them, which is a sense that, they might go to us, a small second tier funder like Peppers, Liberties, all that kind of stuff, right? With the intent that at some point we're going to find a way to hopefully get them out of there. Yeah. So we can't have the numbers too tight for PAYG people unless they can foresee, a massive increment in their income. So that's short term, right? Then we can get them out. Self-employed people, there's a lot of low docs, a lot of self-employed customers, they never lodge their tax return at time, right? Let's be real. They might have known they've had a really good year, that you can check their zero, but they need an accountant. Every accountant I know takes 18 months to their tax return, right? So there's nobody that does it quickly. So that's just part of the process. So they need to get this property now. They're, I'm going to wait for my accountant for 18 months. 18 months of growth in Perth. What happened?
That's very true.
You would have lost 40%. 40% on call it 2 properties at $1.1 million, mate. You just missed on half.
Blame it to the accountant.
Yeah. So I'm all for it, and to that effect, I've done it myself recently. Like I actually did buy a few properties in Perth, funny enough. So and that was spanning back a year or so ago, waiting for my tax returns to be done by my accountant. Who's actually, funny enough, my accountant on this trip with me. He's the one who invited me to Melbourne this trip.
That's very good. But I think, I think risk versus reward is an interesting point. Most recently, I saw a very interesting example, and I'll share this story with you, and I'll like your feedback on this. This person was going aggressive in their property investment strategy. And so what they did was they changed their own personal home loan, like, principal place of residence, from principal and interest to interest only, to free up the cash flow so that they can use that cash flow to go even more aggressive. Comments?
Yeah. I personally think I would do it in a different way.
Yeah.
So the portion that they'd have that's non-deductible and that they're willing to pay off, I'd keep that as principal interest. But I'd create a second split that's interest only on it.
Yeah.
So I'd do it in 2 splits. Yeah. So one portion, because you want the lower rate and even then I'd probably draw a bit of equity extra so that it's almost chewing its own fat. If you get a case, you don't have to switch the whole thing to interest only. But that strategy, it works really well. So we had a customer last week who, they had their buffers in place, and they had about 400,000 buffers to have a substantial portfolio. Yeah. So they split their own occupier mortgage into the portion that they were trying to amortize, and that 400,000 buffer they wanted interest only to make sure that the repayments doesn't amortize the loan. There's no repayments on that portion. So it's quite an interesting strategy. It's actually I've done it myself. To be fair as well. Yeah.
And a lot of people don't talk about these strategies, right? I think it's a smart way to go around. I've talked, most of the brokers that I talk to, they'll just raise the equity out, put the whole loan on P&I, and people feel the burn, right? Because, they're using all of their equity and paying it down, their repayments go up, and they're like, shit, I thought investments was easy, but it's not really that easy because, you're burning cash flow now.
I think it's a mindset thing too, because at the end of the day, you just got to look at how much interest you're paying, right? So people, for some reason, just look at, my repayment's 10 grand.
Yeah.
But you might have 400 in offset. So technically interest is only paying, the difference, right?
Correct.
And it's just chewing its own fat, which is, I always say chewing its own fat. But the more I keep saying it, people eventually understand it, and they're like, I get it now. But because realistically, if you had, say, 400 grand in offset, a $1 million loan, right? If you wanted to, you could push that into the mortgage, and drop that mortgage to 600, drop the repayment space on 600 grand mortgage, right?
Correct. Yeah.
That's what I try to get people to think about and just say, look, you've got that, the repayments are much higher.
Yeah.
But it's just chewing its own fat.
Yeah.
So that's what
I also say, can also think about it from a perspective that it's almost forced saving, right? Because you're paying a higher repayment, it's a forced saving, right? Yes, your principal is going back into the pot, but you wouldn't save that money regardless anyway. It's only the bank's sword that sits on your forehead that basically makes you pay that loan back quickly.
For sure. There's so many different methods as well. So I think there's a fair few people online nowadays actually presenting these 10-year mortgages and stuff like that. Is really just aggressive repayment structure, right? So
basically,
at the end of the day, some people can handle their money. Some people so we work really well with understanding the psychology of people when they come in with us. Yeah. If your psychology, if your brain's running a certain way, and so for instance, I have clients who, if they have money in the account, they'll spend it. Yeah. Doesn't matter what you do. So we have to figure out a system for them when they buy property. That we're going to allocate this, have your direct debits at this amount, so that you're always going to be safeguarded. Have your buffers sitting, in untouchable redraw, for instance, where it takes 2 to sign. Yeah. So the husband and wife literally have to walk in the bank to get that money out. Yeah. But there'll be 50 grand in buffers sitting there. Yeah. So we really try to safeguard people and make sure that we understand what it is that makes them tick. Yeah. And then that way we can work with them to figure out a strategy that allows their mortgage to be repaid based on their strategy. But if they really need it, they've got ways of accessing funds without having to reapply. Yeah. Because what happens if, you say one of you lose your job and now you're down living week to week, right? Yeah. This is where people fall into traps because they're just falling into this vicious cycle week to week, no buffers. Yeah. All of a sudden something happens, car breaks down, engine blows up. Yeah. one person loses a job and they're half their income, they're gone. And it happens very rapidly in the downturn, so fast. But imagine you had 100 grand in redraw, which you could access with yourself and your wife if you both walked into the bank, signed a piece of paper, open that up, take 10 grand out, put yourself
definitely
in a good space.
No, it's very interesting. I think a lot of this is mindset game, and that's what it comes down to. If you bring this all together in your final words, how important is cash flow versus growth, and how does this ties into the mortgage strategy? Let's bring this together for people.
Yeah, so I think, when you do speak to, I guess, buyer's agent and mortgage broker, really important that they're, I guess, people who are investing or had experience themselves, because then you're talking to the right people who are focused on property.
Definitely.
As their vehicle to move forward, right? Then key point to that is, making sure you meet someone who actually understands what you're trying to achieve and actually understands you as a person, right? As a human being, not just, hey, you're a number, you're another transaction. Transactional banking or broking or, that's long life, right? That's why all the banks are shutting down their mortgage divisions, pushing out the brokers, because the good brokers are actually doing a good job and actually helping people with their, with their futures. So that's probably the key points I'd probably say towards selection of the person that you're going to use. Pressing from selection, you obviously need to have a strategy in place to really understand the numbers. That's going to make it tick. So that, that lies with your buyers as and your broker working together. And then probably sliding through from that, you really want to select the right asset.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Where do people find you online?
So if you just look up strategic brokers, so I think our website is www.strategicbroker.com.au, strategic broker singular, or just my mobile number is on the website also. You can just contact us there, and you'll get through.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Hong, for coming out today. This is a 3-part episode for viewers and listeners. If you have any questions, comments, feedback in relation to mortgage strategy, reach out to us or Hong. We can definitely assist you. Thank you for tuning in. Be kind, keep investing, keep smiling. Take care. This is Moxin and Hong checking out. Adios.